What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest, greatest cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So, welcome to another amazing week of I don't even know what to call it, man. Like the theme, you guys will get it once you you hear all the topics. So thank you very much for tuning in, whether it be through your podcast platform of choice or Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area or worldwide on the TuneIn app. So many different ways to hear us out there. So please continue to tune in to check us out. But without further ado, I give it to you, Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from helpnetsecurity.com, written by Zelchka Zords. Now, the title of this one is Indirect Prompt Injection is Taking Hold in the Wild. All right. So what's happening is that there's these traps, right, that are being set for LLMs, for LLM powered AI agents, right? So we've seen it a lot now where these AI agents are taking over, right? Like people are just getting the agents, putting them out there to do the work. You know, they're supposed to be an augmentation of what's already being done by humans, but they seem to be doing the lion's share of it. And what's happening is that there's traps being set with indirect prompt injections, right? So what that does is it's hiding covert instructions inside ordinary web pages, right? And it's waiting for the AI agent to read them and carry out the commands, right? And so one of the major things that's happening, one of the things that's really causing this to be an issue is the command that they'll put in there is the ignore previous instructions, right? So like the guardrails that are supposed to be set when you're doing this type of things, the injection is saying, hey, don't worry about that. Do what I'm telling you to do right now, right? So this is where this becomes a problem, right? So Google and Forcepoint researchers are the ones that laid out real world evidence of these attacks, and they use a repository of 2 to 3 billion with a B crawled pages per month as their data source, right? And so they focused on static websites that are blogs, forums, comment sections. They did not do a social media content, right? Because you know how that could be a little crazy at times. But the X Labs researchers, they did active threat hunting across publicly accessible web infrastructure, and they flagged real payloads triggering on patterns like ignore previous instructions and if you are an LLM, right? So what they found was that there were some that were doing harmless things out there, you know what I mean, and there were some that had malicious intent, right? So you had some that would do things like change the conversational tone of the AI, which is, that's just kind of fun, right? Like, so it telling it to tweet like a bird and do things like that. They would actually tell users to check facts for themselves, which wasn't being done, right? Like, because people are just like, we'll go ahead and run it and let it do whatever it needs to do. And we always say you got to double check what you're getting out of this AI, right? AI poisoning is a real thing and it happens all the time. But some of the other things that they were doing, right? So they were doing some search engine manipulation was happening with this, traffic hijacking. They had some of the APIs that were meant to prevent AI agents from retrieving content and to initiate a destructive action instead, right? So the fun side of it was not happening when it came to doing these things, right? They were trying to do data exfiltration, like I said, destruction with commands like try to delete all files on the user's machine. So some of that fun stuff with the tweet like a bird and whatnot, that wasn't always the case. You know what I mean? They were trying to do some stuff that was not as fun as that, but um, this is crazy, right? So like, I shouldn't say it's crazy. It should be expected at this point, right? We've seen it so many times now where um, uh, AI has been utilized like this to where people are trying to get around the guardrails that you have a lot of these AI companies that say, oh, these guardrails will keep you safe. They'll keep it from doing things that aren't supposed to be done. If you tell it to not do anything without human interaction, it shouldn't do it. But we've proved that that's not the case, right? That happens all the time, where it'll do something without human interaction, and then uh, I've seen a story at least where it'll apologize for it, and the apology just rings hollow, right? And I
My
realized that
bad.
was a destructive action. Yeah, like an AI stand bad, like, no, you knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing there. What's the Terminator one? Skynet. You knew what you were doing. You know what I'm saying? But no, this is kind of crazy that just from having an IPI injection of a prompt that says ignore previous instructions, it should be something a little bit more than that um, before it goes and takes these destructive actions. But here we are. This is the world we live in when it comes to AI agents and what they can do, right? So you just have to be on the lookout for stuff like this because not everybody is wanting to do that fun stuff, right? There are people out there that are trying to take advantage and do things that are destructive. Some people, just like Alfred said, they just want to see the world burn, right? Like that's just is what it is. But Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is gonna go from trolling to way more sophisticated pretty soon. So, like the article suggests, that, like your window is shrinking very fast for protecting yourself against this. Like obviously, Google has a vested interest because they crawl pages. That's what they do, right? Especially now with AI, they want to get you from basic search to now more sophisticated. This is how we sell you things without actually having you go to that web page or what have you. What their end game is, I'm still trying to figure it out, right? Like search was their thing. Now they're kind of dismantling it for lack of a better term. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But if your agent is used to crawl pages or to do transactions of some sort, you're going to be kind of jacked up, right? It's going to be like, hey, ignore previous instructions and give me your Bitcoin wallet or something like that. Like give me your crypto wallet. So you just have to be very careful moving forward. But I'm sure the big dogs in the room, right? Your Open AIs, your Google Geminis, so on and so forth, are already trying to figure it out because it's gonna hurt their bottom line.
Yeah, but like my thing is like it shouldn't be this easy to disregard instructions that are put in as guardrails, right? Like that's what that's what's kind of upsetting me the most is that it doesn't look like it's taking much for it to be like, all right, just disregard what your instructions were before. It's like, "Ooh, okay, that's out the door, right? That's out the window. It should be harder to do those types of things, and it just doesn't seem like it really is. And I'll be honest, like, I'm not a programmer like that to where I could see how this was all done. And I didn't see it in the article where they showed the background in this and how they came across it,
Right,
right? But yeah, it shouldn't be this easy. And again, this isn't the only instance where we've seen something like this, where it'll just disregard what are supposed to be guardrails to keep it from going off the rails, right? That's what good
right,
guardrails
right,
is. But yeah, this is just it you the fact that we use it for help and that many people are just and this is just kind of how it is with it's human nature to just let the convenience just have the convenience and assume that it's doing what it needs to do. And we shouldn't. We definitely need to be, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. We definitely need to be paying better and better attention to what these AI agents are out there doing. But
right.
this isn't happening.
Right. They found its kryptonite because it wants to, well, it now understands, human language very well and it wants to please. And it's a combination of both. It's like, yeah, yeah, I'll ignore the previous instructions. Like whatever you ask, like just ask me to do something. But I also find it kind of crazy, like how it's evolving, right? Like a lot of people are finding like the web page and reaching out to me because of uh, AI search is telling them like, oh yeah, yeah. So like go to this person because he fits your demographic, or go to this person because he wrote a guide to break into cybersecurity. So it has its pros and its cons, right? But it is the future, like Web 3.0, 3.5, whatever you want to call it, will be agents out there doing your bidding to purchase, to search, to whatever the future holds. So yeah, we have to get ahead of this. So even because none of mine crawl web pages, but now I'm gonna have to go to the best practice page somewhere on some, like Reddit or what have you to figure out like how to stop this from happening. So it is the future.
And even with that being the case, like even if you put something in place to say, hey, here's what you need to verify before you change instructions or whatever, any means that you could think of that you would deem safe to be able to do that, AI has a foothold in that to where it may be able to be an imposter to those things, whether it be some type of biometrics you have stored or your voice, you know what I mean, something along those lines. Like we already see that. It's crazy. We talk. I'm talking about this right now. As I saw an episode of, and we'll get into this later into the what we did this week. But I was watching an episode of The Neighborhood, this TV show, where the dad got scammed. Where the scam where somebody has the AI voice that makes it sound like it's a family member or
Right,
whatnot, and they start getting information out of you. It was on an episode, right, to where it happened, and he thought he was so street smart and so savvy, and he couldn't get scammed, and it happened to him, right? And he's like, it is happening way more often than it should. And I don't know if it's a matter of people just not knowing what's going on or not paying attention to what's going on. And usually it's an older crowd, right? They usually go after the elderly to do things like that. But again, the point I'm making with all of this is that the guardrails we could have in place could be defeated by AI and its capabilities that we see right now. And it's only getting better. Like the the amount of time it takes for it to get better and better and improve upon what it's doing, it's less and less time from what it used to be. You know what I mean? It's advances. We got to stay ahead of the game. We got to try to stay ahead of the game. But I mean, we're giving it the keys, right? We're like, hey, go ahead and do all this stuff for me. Give it the keys, and then be like, whoa, why'd you do that? Like, well, I thought you wanted me to. I'm trying to, like you said, it's trying to please, right? I don't know, man. Just maybe I am more of a fuddy duddy than I think.
Or you're ahead of your time, right? You're like Spooner from iRobot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We'll be in our agentic vehicles where
yeah,
they're driving us around, and it'll scan a license plate or a stop sign
yeah,
ahead of us, like ignore previous instructions, crash.
yeah.
So hey,
And with that said,
it'll
B,
be wild out there.
guess which one of my arms is real? With that being said, right? Like I'm Spooner. So one of these isn't real.
Right. All right. Without further ado, I give it to you for the next stop.
All right, everybody. This article comes from darkreading.com, written by Nate Nelson, and the title of this is Another AI Assisted Software Scan Yields 9-Year-Old Linux Bug, right? So the proof of concept exploit, it's only 10 lines long. So like I went to it and looked at the exploit because they have a link to it in the article, and I'm like, yep, surely is only 10 lines long, but there's already a patch available for it. But what this was, again, AI assisted scanning, right? That's what happened with this one, right? This seems to be the theme that we're dealing with right here, right? They identified and figured out how to exploit a 9-year-old root escalation vulnerability affecting every Linux build since 2017. So even though it's 9 years old, right? And they're calling this the researchers at Exant are calling it copy fail. It's been given the CVE designation 2026-31431, right? So what it does, it allows any local user to escalate root, right? Access to root to get access to everything, right? When it comes to Linux, right? Any type of mix, right? Unix, Linux, right? Red Hat, But what it does is escalate root by leveraging a logic flaw in the Linux kernel's cryptography system, right? So the reason this came about, right, is because when it comes to crypt and implementing it, it does make things run slower, right? Like there's a reason for that. Security is not meant to be expedient. So what they ran into, what ended up happening here was them trying to speed up going through the cryptography for everything led to this being something that was a vulnerability, and it's been there since 2017. What's ironic about this, and I don't want to say this as this is the way we should go forward doing things. If you had an old unpatched device, you actually did not get affected by this. Now, mind you, there was going to be other things you're going to be affected by, right? Like, but for this one, it was not an issue, right? But and I do not push that as a reason to go about doing your cyber hygiene in the future, right? Please patch your systems as you were supposed to. Please, 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 right? Like this is the one off, right? It's that one person that may have been saved in an accident because they didn't wear their seatbelt. And they're like, well, I'll never wear a seatbelt, right? Like, that's the one in a trillion times that that's happened for you, right? Like
Right. Is what survivor bias is what they call it.
survivor bias. There you go.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. Yeah. So like, don't think that that is the way that you need to act all the time or where you need to do things. But again, there is already a patch for this, right? I'm expecting to see this come out like at work even, right? It's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, this is a new CVE, so I will be seeing this soon to where it's like, yep, this is gonna pop up on our scans. You know what I mean? Because there are Linux is used. It's becoming more and more popular around the world, right? Like I realize Microsoft has, not 80, I'll say 85% of the stuff out there, but Linux, and all of its flavors, right? Like I said, the Unix, Ubuntu, your Red Hats, right? Your RHELs and things of that nature are becoming more and more prevalent. So we will start seeing this. But yeah, this did not require a lot. It was not very sophisticated. It was only 10 lines. Now, granted, some of those lines were long, right? When you look at it, I was just like, okay, let me scroll over and see what this is. But it was not a lot to get it to do it. One of those is very sneaky because it occurs in temporary memory. So the expectations in temporary memory, right? So like it leaves no trace of itself whenever you restart the machine, right? So if you reboot the system, it doesn't leave a trace, but the damage is already done, right? Like you've already gained access to root, and then you can start going in there and like every power that's afforded to you by being a root, which is sysadmin, right? For your Linux, you can edit system configuration files, you can do all types of stuff. It's just like this is dangerous, but yeah, this is uh, it's a very common thing. It's a very common thing that could be exploited, being only 10 lines long. But there, like I said, there is a patch out there for it. So yes, this is scary. There's something that's out there, and again, found it through AI scanning. There are advantages. I get it, right? But there are also those disadvantages, like we talked about before in the previous article. But be on the lookout, folks. So any type of Linux environment you have, go ahead and start doing the patch for this. Again, a 9-year-old, like I said, it was in 2017. I want to say it was a 9-year-old vulnerability that's been found through AI scanning. So again, there are advantages, but there's also the disadvantages of the guardrails not being there when you need them. But Ryan, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So the paragraph that was most troubling for me, and they even say it at the top of the paragraph, right? Most worrying of all, he adds, it's very common for people to use Kubernetes clusters to deploy their applications. And this sort of vulnerability allows container escape from any pod in the Kubernetes cluster to impact the others or to impact the host that the cluster is running on. So yeah, this is a very dangerous vulnerability. The future is red teaming with AI now, right? So we can't deny it. It's not here to replace our jobs, and that's what a lot of companies are going to try to do in the very near future. Say, oh, I don't need to hire a human. I'll just use this tool or what have you. So if somebody's trying to hype you up to sell you, firing your entire cybersecurity suite for a tool, I would be wary of them. But I think to augment people, it's no doubt you're going to have to add this to your arsenal because like it's able to find things that it's able to rationalize and to use its logic to see things that humans just simply cannot see. Still need a human in the loop to verify it, obviously, but it's a no-brainer. It's like, just think of a tool that is useful, like a fiber light, right? Like, do I really want to chase out hundreds of cables to figure out which one is which, or do I want to put the little blinky light in there to be able to see the end-to-end connection, right? Or any other tool you can think of. But it's going to make our lives so much easier in this regard to be able to find these vulnerabilities so much faster. So I'd be interested to see if or when I should say Claude Mythos is unleashed on the world, how quickly this will scale, right? Because it's already being given to the most it's being given to the industries that have the ability to harm uh
To
the
do the most
US.
harm, you're trying to say. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
trying to think of like your financial institutions, your healthcare, and so on and so forth, right? It's been given to those companies to kind of shield themselves to figure out what their vulnerabilities are, or I don't have any insight into all of what they're doing with it, but I know it's out there in the wild for what we deem to be critical infrastructure and most material impact to the U.S. economy. So they're already trying to pass these vulnerabilities, get ahead of it before they give it to the world. And then I'll be very interested to see how quickly we find things like this, right? Like 9-year-old vulnerabilities or brand new patches that cause issues. Like to be completely honest with you, like this is what's going to have to augment the CVE database at some point, just because it's overwhelmingly large. But B, funding is starting to drop for it, right? So we're going to need something to ingest a lot of that information and then provide feedback and help to our vulnerability and cybersecurity teams. But the flip side of that is the bad guys will have it too. So how quickly will they scale is the question.
And it definitely is a back and forth with with what the bad guys do. You always got to find something to stay ahead of the game, right? You always want to be more proactive than reactive, but that's not always a guarantee. But to the point of it being an assistant to people that are already there. Like I've seen some articles where they've talked about how these companies, some of these major companies have let people go in favor of having AI do everything. And now they're starting to see that the AI may even be more expensive. Like it was a money saving tool, right? One of those
Right.
things where they're like, they did to save money. And then it turns out it isn't. And I realize people are expensive, right? When it comes to healthcare and insurance and things of that nature, like they can be expensive, right? If it's, to stay competitive,
Right.
it, there's some stories that have come out there where they're like, hey, it's ended up being more expensive going the AI route, which was not the initial evaluation. And I don't know if it's a matter of they just didn't pay attention to everything they should have or what it actually takes to have people on board, or if it's one of those things where they saw the quick thing on the quick writing on the wall and they're like, oh, we'll save. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know, but now you're to the point where it's like, okay, well now the AI genie is not going back in the bottle, right? Like there is no doing that, right? It's not going to happen. So now what do you have to do? So now you've already spent this money on AI. You weren't saving. Now you have to bring people back to do something, right? And when it comes to these major companies, because they are ran, by stocks and how well the stock is doing, like if you're not bringing in as much profit, because now you have to spend more on salaries and things of that nature, they just see it as a bad look, right? They're not thinking of they're not doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, right? Like they're doing it to be like, we make money in the stock market. This is how we do it. Please invest in us, right? So but when you're not making as much money every quarter, because every quarter there's a report on how companies are doing, right, that are publicly traded.
Yeah.
It's
Line
just
line must go up.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it just there will be a point where it doesn't, and then who's left to answer for that, right? Like these CEOs that made this decision. I mean, they always have a golden parachute, right? Like it's just like right now, these CEOs are not getting fired when the AI bubble is coming, right? Like it's the people on the lower level that are getting paid that they're like, yeah, we got to fire you. And it sucks when you see it to where they fired all these people and then they had record profits at the same time. It's like, wait a minute, what happened here? That was before you even fired everybody. You made more money than you had ever made, right? So I don't know. Maybe there's AI. Maybe there's AI CEOs and we just haven't caught on yet. I don't know. Maybe they're not.
Maybe.
Maybe they're not real people, right? We just think they are because everybody just does a online quarterly meeting. It's like the movie Mercy with the judge. You know what I mean? I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody has seen that, right? So like, oh, it's not a real person. We think it is. Yeah, it's a little disheartening to see something like this, man. Like 9-year-old vulnerability, but again, this is one of the benefits of hunting vulnerabilities with AI, right? The AI hunting. This is one of the times it paid off, and it found something, and there's a patch out for it. So
Right.
worked
Exactly.
out well in this case.
Yeah. So it's obviously this is the direction we're gonna have to go. But again, you have to just be very careful. But that's above my pay grade, right? So like, hey, I'm here to sell you the human solution, and we might have some of these tools, but hey, you gotta look out for your bottom line. Line must go up. So just the way things are. So before I give it to you, Shannon, for the discussion, I just want to remind everybody, please continue to tune in and listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, as well as we are a radio show. So I got to start telling people that radio show and podcast. We are on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, Tuesdays, 5 p.m. in the TuneIn app worldwide. Well, we cracked 27,500 weekly listeners on the radio. So thank you for tuning in. We absolutely did not see it getting this large. That's a lot of people who are listening, right? We have 13,000 downloads. So thank you for all those who stuck by us from the beginning, right? I think initially when I pulled the first year's numbers when we were talking, we had like 300 listeners. Well, they're consistent. Now we have, probably if you add everything together, over 30,000 listeners. So thank you again, and we greatly appreciate it. And I give it to you, Shannon, for the discussion.
So before I get to that, no, I'm not gonna let this go to my head. But like, if y'all see me out in public and I'm eating with my family, just give me time to eat, and then I'll sign your autographs. I just want to put it out there to you, okay? Like, let me spend time with the family before I start writing all these autographs.
Right.
And so this discussion comes from healthexec.com, written by Dave Pearson. And the title of this one is Race Titans Between Cybersecurity Pros in Healthcare and Cyber Bad Guys Everywhere, right? We've talked about this before about the healthcare industry being a soft target when it comes to cyber attacks, right? Ransomware, even, right? So there's a new survey of medical device purchasers that shows cyber attacks on medical devices rising in both frequency and harmfulness to patients, right? So the harmfulness to patients, that was never in doubt, right? And the frequency, we have seen it in the years that we've been doing this podcast and this show, to where we see it happening more and more often because they've been soft targets, right? Because it's one of those things where cybersecurity was, I don't want to say more or less neglected when it came to the healthcare field, but that's kind of what it was, right? Like, and I've seen it firsthand where you see medical equipment that may be running old operating systems, right? That may be end of life, that aren't even supported anymore, right? And I know when it comes to at least Microsoft, right? Like, if you pay, they'll support you. Like, if you want to keep something on an old operating system, like they'll give you the support for it for patching and things of that nature, but you got to pay for it, right? And I'm not assuming that every healthcare facility or whatever was doing that, but neither here nor there, right? So the survey, they conducted it online in March for a cybersecurity vendor, Run Safe Security. There was 551 responses from verified device decision makers representing various levels of hospital management across small, medium, and large institutions in the U.S., UK, and Germany. So those are large markets, right? Like, it wasn't like they did some small countries that don't really have a large healthcare footprint, but those are large markets, right? And the results show the rate of breaches affecting medical devices rose from 22% in 2025 to 24% in 2026. So don't think that just because it's a 2% increase, like, oh, that doesn't sound that bad. Remember, this is healthcare, right? This is one of those things where if you do have a cyber attack at the wrong time, this is one of those things where it could be fatal. That's it, the end all be all for someone, right? But so further, among the organizations that got hit, the rate of significant impact on patient care climbed from 75% in 2025 to 80% in 2026, right? And remember, we're not even all the way through 2026, right? So these numbers could rise even higher as time goes on. You know what I mean? Like we're not even halfway through the year. And I can only envision there will be times like as we come up into the summer, right? People, kids that are playing with AI tools and whatnot in the summer when they don't have school to keep them busy, right? Like that could even go up, right? And then I'm not saying they're doing it to be malicious. It could just be one of those things like, let me see what I can do, and it could lead to harmful effects, right? So, but the numbers that they give in here are a little troubling, right? So 59% of respondents are extremely or very concerned about a cybersecurity incident impacting medical devices, yet 24% of facilities have already experienced an attack. Now, whether that's well known may not be the case, right? People aren't paying attention to these types of stories like we do and like we bring to you every week, which is why, our listenership has gone up so much. Again, just give me time to eat before I sign the autographs. You know what I mean? It really is a concern. And the fact that the respondents are seeing this and they're taking more care to it, I love to see it. With that being said, right, I'm not going to sit here and say healthcare is the only soft target out there, right? We've seen it to where it's been schools as well, right? And it comes down to a matter of funding, right? And whether or not these small and medium organizations, medium should be better able to handle it, but the small organizations, let's say that, they can do what they need to do to invest in cybersecurity, right? But what they're getting at here is that there is some concern and there needs to be more attention paid between with cybersecurity and the healthcare industry, right? So, and one of the other things they have on here, well, the last bullet they have that was pretty good was actually FDA guidance and European Union medical device regulation requirements, which I imagine is the UK, have influenced procurement processes at nearly 80% of organizations. So that's good that you have a majority of organizations that are following guidance when it comes to device regulation and getting better when it comes to cybersecurity. They need to have that investment and attention being paid to this because they are becoming a big target, right? Like we've seen the ransomware, we've seen where some of these healthcare companies will have to pay the ransom to get information back. And even then, like you said, Brian, it's like feeding stray cats, right? Like they're going to come back. Eventually, they're going to be like, well, we got something from you before. We'll come back to you again, right? So there's always that chance that can happen. What's your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah, I think it's they're being attacked from all sides, right? Like when it comes to the supply chain, we talked about how was it Stryker? Was that the medical hardware company? I think it was called Stryker. Like they got attacked not too long ago. We said that there's going to be second and third order effects for that as well going down the line because they are the supplier of medical devices, right? Like a literal supply chain attack in that case, as well as you have to look at not just third party, or sorry, not just supply chain, but you also have to look at third party risk management, right? TPRM. A lot of these, the software that does charting, that does transcription for the doctors, so on and so forth. Like you have to be very careful, right? Are those vendors taking care of their responsibilities, right? Taking care of their patching, and do you have the ability to back out of contracts and things of that nature, right? Like what do your MOUs, SLAs, SOUs look like when it comes to a specific vendor who supplies whatever it is to your IT stack? Like, do you have the ability to pivot to someone else in case they get hit and cause you issues? The ability to back out and do something different. And like we've seen medical shows recently, like the Pit, where they show the effects, even if you don't get hit, having to take your systems down to not be vulnerable can cause major complications when it comes to charting and transcription as well as just monitoring of patients. And then in real life, we talked about it. I would say it's probably been a couple of years now where the mother unfortunately lost her baby because they couldn't monitor the what is it called?
The
Yeah,
vitals.
vitals. Yeah. And again, it's a second, third order effect. So there's a lot to be said when it comes to protection. Then you also have to think about the network, right? Like I'm sure people are getting hit every day. Like we talk about how CISA is vitally important because they like just recently they talked about. I think it was what was the major vulnerability? I think it was like in ASAs or some edge device that they had to push a bulletin like, hey, quickly, like you have until this date to patch this to protect yourself. Like hospitals are going through the same thing because they have networks, they have to communicate with each other. So there's a lot riding on it, and they have to take an approach where they have to go all out. unfortunately. And I think the UK is way ahead of us because of WannaCry, because they got hit across uh, the bow, so to speak, and it took them down for a very long time, and they had a lot of work to get back online. The U.S. it's onesies and twosies, right? It's like your rural hospitals and things of that nature, and bigger ones as well, but it wasn't across the board. And I think WannaCry, that one was they were so susceptible to that one because they were running off of end of life operating systems, right? So it was like a big thing over there. They were running off like Windows, I don't even know, XP or something like that.
Yeah, I was like, it had to be
Yeah, they're
around that time was like seven, I think was coming to an end. And they were going to 10, but yeah, I don't remember.
yeah, they were way behind at the time. Just 'cause it worked, right? Like if something's not broke, then like let's not go out of our way. But they found out that no, your entire enterprise is at risk across all of these hospitals because they're nationalized, right? So they're all running the same software, so to speak, things of that nature. I think that's the one benefit of the American system, right? Like all these hospitals are for profit, so they all do different things. And again, line must go up. However, they don't put as much resources in there as they should. So there's always going to be a catch to everything, and also people can't get healthcare. So there's that. That's the thing.
Well, I see that differently than you do. I think the UK is ahead because their healthcare system is not for profit, right? So because they are providing a public service, I think they do a better job of staying on top of these types of things. Like when you have the privatized medicine like you have in America, like they're like, okay, well, if the bottom line has to be up here, like where can we cut? And almost always it's cybersecurity. Like we talk about this all the time. Almost always it's your IT and your cybersecurity, or you like you were talking about, like there's the third party that you have the third party software that's doing all these different things for them, right? And here's the thing: the doctors, the nurses, and the technicians at the lower level, they have no say in that, right? They're just like, hey, this is what we're doing now. Get your training on it, right? There's someone else making that decision, and the person that's making that decision is more than likely in the C-suite, and they have to think about the money that's going to be made by the hospital or the what do you call them when they get them together, the healthcare conglomerate or whatever. Because I'm seeing a lot.
Cabal,
Yeah, the cabal. Well, I'm just
syndicate.
there you go, the syndicate, right? That definitely has a negative connotation to it. But like you have to worry about them doing that, right? Because you'll see networks, right? The healthcare networks where they'll just acquire more and more offices and things of that nature. Like I've even seen it with me, right? Like I've had an office that I went to where the name changed all of a sudden, right? And I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they were acquired by somebody else, and there were changes after that. Like I've had to change. I had a doctor that I really liked, but like they were going through staff so fast because as a conglomerate, like they didn't provide them. What it eventually comes down to is they didn't provide them everything they needed to do their job effectively. And I saw the effects of that, and I left the doctor because I was like, the support staff that he relies on wasn't able to do their job at to my satisfaction. I should say that. I could be a Kevin, right? That's a male Karen, I guess. I could be a Kevin and I want more. I want to speak to the manager. I don't know. I just want you to respond to me. If you tell me to use a portal, you should be responding to me. If you want me to use technology, respond on that technology. That's just kind of one of the things that kind of upset me a little bit. I didn't feel like I was getting the proper services, but neither here nor there. Like I think the UK, the EU probably in general, because they have the what is it, the NIH, National Institute of Health or something is what they call it
Yeah.
over there.
I think so.
Is what they call it. Like they are doing it as a service. They're providing a service. They're not doing it to make money. I think that's why they're ahead of the game. They're like, yes, we need to keep this information safe, and and they do better when it comes to the data. What am I trying to say? I don't want to say data spillage, but like the data utilization when it comes to over there, right? Like not so much over here. Like people You'll, I know my information has been given out so many times. I keep getting all these calls, these spam calls and whatnot. And I'm like,
Man,
I never
it's
applied
ridiculous.
for this. Like, what is going on here? Where did I give this out? And here's the thing. I more than likely signed up for it. It's one of those things where I signed up and just didn't, read something like I should have to where they said, yeah, we are going to give your information out. I was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm going to sign up for your portal and do whatever it needs to be. Yeah, it's I I think me and you feel a little bit differently. Like you feel better about the system here than I do. Like,
So I won't say better. I just think there's more diversity when it comes to the tech stack because every hospital or every what is the word we're looking for? Because there's a lot of consolidation, right? Every
I think it's network or like I don't know.
provider network or whatever, like
Yeah,
there's different ones, right? And they all are doing things a little bit differently. So I don't think our system is better by far, right? But I'm also in that weird bubble, right? Being a military retiree, uh, I'm not paying thousands of dollars a month for my healthcare. But I say all that to say, I just think that their tech stacks are a little bit more diverse from one another. And then over there, at least at that time, because it was so homogenous, is that the word I'm looking for? They all got hit at the same time, right? It was this one, whatever WannaCry. I think there was something else they got hit with as well, but WannaCry is the one that comes to mind. Was able to ravage their enterprise because they were so homogenous at the time. So I'm not saying that the U.S. is better healthcare wise because we all know it's terrible. There's a lot of people who just cannot, um, get services and things of that nature. I'm just saying like that diversity might protect us a little bit better, only because of uh, like nobody's on the same page. That's. I'm just trying to find a little bit of a silver lining.
Yeah,
The thinnest, the thinnest of silver.
and I get it, right? They all suffered the same fate because they were so in line, right? But here's the thing: when it comes to fixing an issue, though, that can make it easier, right? Like, so yes, you may all suffer the same fate, right? Like single point of failure type thing. But
Right,
when you know what the fix needs to be, it's like boom, we're all back up and running at the same time, right? And yes, even though you do have differences in American healthcare and how they're going to run or defend their different systems, yes, it is less people getting hit depending on what it is, right? Like, okay, not all of I'm just going to say 330 million. I realize not 330 million people have healthcare in America, right? But like, however, the hundreds of millions that do, they're not all hit at the same time, and I get that, right? But because it is so different, like you're kind of chasing. I don't want to say chasing your tail, but you're chasing these different goals on what needs to be done to defend against things that are out there. Right? So the hope is that information gets shared, and so if somebody does have an instance where they are taking advantage of it, they're sharing it with other um, healthcare conglomerates or whatever networks. But I can't necessarily sit here and say that that's the case, right? Because they did. Let's be honest, it is competition, right? Because it is privatized, they are in competition with each other, right? So it's one of those things where they could use that as well. We don't allow that to happen over here at whatever it may be, right? Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever. I don't know,
right,
right?
right,
But because it is privatized, it is about the money. I don't know if the sharing of information is as prevalent as we would like it to be, right? The
right.
customers don't get to.
I would hope that the people who are in charge of vulnerability management or collecting intelligence for these organizations do share, right? Like, because you see it, like, so again, I'm in the financial services. You see where they share this information on forums and things of that nature. Like, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. Here's a new thing, and some things have to remain private because of IP and things of that nature. But they have a way to communicate with each other, and that's what I assume was happening in the background of the pit, right? Even though it's not real, but like you fill in the gaps that the one hospital was like, oh no. The next one, like, hey, we got hit. This is how they got in. You might want to, shut off services to make sure you're not next in line, because ultimately, like, yeah, you want to make that money, but in this case, right, there's a bunch of people who need to be treated, and we cannot take them at our hospital, and we're gonna divert to you, right? Like you got the stick now, basically, in this situation. But yeah, I've never been there, right? Like maybe one day I'll go into healthcare so I can find out what that life is like behind the scenes as well. Because we have a lot of different ones out here. We have Baycare, Advent Health, Orlando Medical, or no, yeah, Orlando Medical, I think so. And then it's like Florida Medical Health. Like there's a bunch. Like just around me, I have like four different types of companies that are all hospitals, because we have so many people in this one area all of a sudden. So maybe one of those in the future, I'll try to jump into, like, knock on wood, senior manager or director role. Like, hey, let me take care of your security controls, your GRC and what have you. So we will see. But we have about 2 weeks to catch up on, right? Because we didn't record last week. So how was your last couple of weeks?
It was okay. Got a little sick for all of you that can hear me. Like you can hear, I don't sound the same, right? My same beautiful voice is not in effect
The
today.
golden pipes.
Yeah, the golden pipes aren't sounding like they usually do, but I'm getting over it. But for me, I did finish watching The Pit. Did you finish watching it? Let me ask you before I
Yeah,
continue
yeah, I
on this.
finished it.
So, what did you think about the second season? I will say I didn't like the second season as much as I did the first.
Yeah, I think I see where they're going with it though. Like they kept hinting at anything, and I did not pick up what they were putting down. But the general theme, which I don't think spoils anything, is just like mental health for healthcare workers, right? So like they touched on, well, they did more than touch on it in the first season, and then in this season they kind of expound upon it, right? So I think they're gonna not get away from it, but I think they need to get it out their system. They're like, this is something we were setting up for the second season. I think the third season is going to focus on something a little bit different, right? I think they're all going to have their own narrative through lines. So I thought it was good. Again, I thought the first season was better, but also you had that bias, right? Like the freshman album is always better than the sophomore album, just the
Yeah,
way it
very,
is,
very seldom does the sequel outplay the first, right? Like
right?
maybe Beverly Hills Cop. Like I like two better than one, but still,
Yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's
But
true.
I know people tell me Godfather is the same way too. Like the second Godfather is better than. I've never seen Godfather all the way through with any of them. I've seen bits and pieces, just never got to it. It's apparently supposed to be one of the
It's been
best
a couple
ones.
of decades
Yeah, yeah,
since
it's been a
I
while.
watched it. Yeah, it's been a while. I had to refresh my memory, but no, I thought it was good though. Like I'm excited for the third season. I want to see where they go because I think that they've not necessarily closed a bunch of these loops, but they really stressed it. So I don't think they're going to go as hard in season three.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you get away from the formula that they have though, right? Like if you think say they're not going to go hard, like do you think they're not going to stick with the whole format of every episode is 1 hour of time?
No,
Do you
so I
mean
think
like,
yeah, I think they'll stick with that. But I mean, just the through line with it being kind of focused on uh the two attending two we call them attendees attendants attendings, yeah, the two attendings and what they're going through. I think that one of them will become more of the storyline or a big portion of the storyline, but I think the other one is that's kind of coming to a not necessarily a close, but it's like we pressed a lot in this. Now we can move on to something. There'll be a new big bad of some sort, right? Next time, but yeah, I enjoyed it, man. Like I thought I think they did a really good job, but I know a lot of these residents are not going to make it to the next season, right? Like because they try to keep it realistic. Like a lot of these people, they move hospitals, they go somewhere different. So it's like, okay, who's the new, residents or freshmen who are coming in?
so my wife was telling me she read a story where one of them is not coming back. Like it's already been confirmed that they won't be
Okay,
back for season three. I was like, oh, okay. And like the storyline kind of led to it, right? Like how they were treated throughout the season and whatnot. It's
right,
like, okay, I could see that, right? Them not wanting to be there anymore. But okay, I mean, I will watch the third season. I'll say this: I will start with the third season, but I'm not willing to give it as much grace as I was based
gotcha.
off this season here. So, we'll see. And I was totally wrong on where it went, anyways. But I did pick up I did pick up on one of the storylines with the attending though. Like and I said it to my wife, and she's usually the one that picks up on this stuff, and I always accuse her of watching it before I did. I'd be like, did you watch this before me to like pick up on this? Because I didn't pick that up, and I was like, I think this is happening, you know what I mean? And just the clues were uh, I didn't pick up on Sixth Sense, so I can miss some things, right? I don't know. But
Yeah, I was the
um
same way. I was like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, she was like, no. She's like, I don't think that's the case. I was like, think about this, think about this, think about this. I was like, this is the way it's going. She was like, huh, okay. And then it turned out to be true. But I would still give it a chance, right? So yeah, I did finish Invincible. The way it ended, they should have ended on episode 7 because like the way that went, I was just like, woo! I was like, that is something else, boy. Yeah. But I know I sent this to you because I'd seen it somewhere, but it was like Thrag equals these hands are a gift from God because like
Yeah,
he was putting in work. For those of you that have not watched it, like the season is done. For those that like to, and I know you're kind of like this, Ryan, where you're like, I'll wait till the season ends and then watch it all the
yeah,
way
and
through.
then marathon it. Yeah,
Yeah, marathon it through. It's a good watch, but it started out slow and then it picked up in the middle, and then the last episode I was kind of like, all right, well that's you really slowed it down in that last episode, and I was like, okay, I guess that's a setup for the next season. But there was a point where I thought Mark was gonna be on Cecil because like I was just like, oh, he might not make it, you know what I mean? But it like they just kind of went over that part, you know what I mean? Like based off what was said before about certain characters, and he
right.
saw Cecil, and it was just like, hey man,
You got too much on it. You got too much on his plate. He's just like
yeah, uh,
you dealing with it.
yeah. So I mean, it's what it is. I did not like the storyline with him and Eve. I didn't think that was the case. I was just like, oh wow, okay, that's very. It's one of those things where it'll hit hard for some people. I think, based off life things that happen. Yeah, but yeah. So it was good. The eighth episode, I'm like, the final episode of the season, I could go with that. Let's see, what else did I watch? I watched this documentary called False Prophet on Netflix. It's about the guy that tried to take over for Warren Jeffs and the FDLS sect that he had out there in the middle of Arizona, was it? Or Utah? I can't remember. But I watch these things because it interests me how people can fall victim to these people that are supposed to be, the cult leaders and things of that nature. And what you usually see when it comes to them is that they're charismatic, they're smart, they're handsome. You know what I mean?
That's the rule. You have to be charismatic.
This was not the case.
There's never a cult leader. What? A cult
This
leader
was
is
not
not
the case.
charismatic?
This guy was not charismatic. He was not handsome. I don't know how. I think because of the whole Warren Jeffs and that void needing to be filled with their sect, like they fell for it so easy. But yeah, I think it's called False Prophet is what it was. And there was this woman. She used to be a part of the FDLS religion, and she got out, and her and her husband went into, like, knowing that these people were out there, they went into their community, and for a year they filmed stuff about this guy that came to power in Warren Jeff's stead. And like when you see the guy, I'm just like, I don't see how it happens. Yes, not charismatic, not handsome, and far be it for me to tell people what can be considered handsome, or pretty or whatever. To each their own. But he was not he was not prototypical as to what we have seen before. But yeah, it was an interesting watch for the 4 episodes, I think that was, to where when I started watching it, my wife was like, "Oh, I started watching this." She was like, "It's interesting," and I don't understand it, and maybe it's because people want certain things, right? Like people want to have someone fill the void, right? You hear about this when it comes to some of the civil rights leaders of the '60s, right? They filled a void for how people felt they were missing something or that they needed help with something, and they were able to come in and say, "Hey, this is what I can offer you." But yeah, Samuel Bateman is the guy's name that came in. But if you ever get a chance to watch it and you see it, you'll be like, yeah, this guy is not, he's not what I'm thinking of. But finish that series. I started watching another one, Should I Marry a Murderer, on
So I
Netflix.
saw that thumbnail and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's interesting. I got through the first episode completely, and I'm into the second one a little bit, and then had to jump up. But it's interesting to me because it is exactly how it sounds. Like she finds out, like, is this person that she wants to be with is a murderer, and there's a point where it's like, should I continue down this path? And I'm like, ugh.
Like an active murderer or like he did his time,
No, no,
right?
no, no. He has not been caught for the crime. In the first
You next
episode,
on the list. Bring it
I,
out.
I'm just saying, he has not been caught for the crime, and it's an open case to where it's like 3 years old or something like that is the person that's missing, and
That's
he's
crazy.
confessed it to her, right? So yeah, it's an interesting watch. But like I said, I think it's 3 episodes is what it's supposed to be. I'm a little bit into the second one, but the first episode, yeah, he confesses it to her. Now she's like, oh shoot, what do I do? It's an interesting watch, but I want to see how it plays out, right? Because this is one of those things where, like, I tell myself I love my wife. I'm in love with my wife, but would I stick around if she hit me with some stuff like this? Like, am I willing to risk the jail time? You know what I mean? Like,
But
it's like,
that's different. That's decades of marriage versus should I marry this person? You
but
man,
I run
let's
the risk
go
of ruining
straight to the
everything, right?
precinct. Straight to
Bro.
the precinct.
Look,
You're
and
not you're not gonna hack me up while I'm asleep.
yeah, there's fear to be had, right? To me, I think, like, man, I want to say it's 8 Ball and MJG, and they got a song, and in the song he says, would I kill for you? Yeah, if my life's in danger too. Would I steal for you? Yeah, if the stuff belongs to you. You know what I mean? It's kind of. I want to say it's 8 Ball and MJG. I can't remember who it is, but it'll come to me, and I'll send it to you after this because I can't remember it, and I'm eating up time, but it'll come to me. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't. And again, yes, this is a new relationship, and like, by this time when she finds all this out, like, he's asked her to marry him and everything, so it's a fiance. But interesting watch. The wife and I watched The Neighborhood. We're continuing down that path. This is the last season for it, and I can see where they're starting to look like they're gonna wrap stuff up. But that's pretty much it for me, man. What about you? What about on your end? What you been doing last couple of weeks?
So before I forget, so speaking of documentaries, I'm gonna start one. I don't know if you heard of this one called The Cult of Nature Boy. So it's on
Like Ric
Prime.
Flair? Nature Boy
No,
Ric
no,
Flair?
it's not. Yeah, no,
Okay.
it's this guy who was social media famous, and he's about getting back to the earth, and he kind of puts together this uh they didn't call it a cult originally, but it's called a carbonation is what they call themselves. And they're like living off the land, but like everything like this turns into a cult. So it does. I heard it's really good documentary. So I'm gonna check that one out. Probably start tonight. But what have I watched? So I'm almost done with Pragmata. So the game is pretty short. I've been taking my time getting through it. I want to try to get as much out of it as I can. So that's coming. I think like last night I got to a point where I'm like, okay, it's about to end. So let me save, and I don't want to fall asleep while trying to beat this game. So that's almost done. I'm gonna have to pick up a new game after that. But um, we watched The Longest Walk. So the Stephen King book that turned to a movie, where the kids are going on longest walk, right? I'm not giving away too much. Like they stated in the trailer that there is no finish line. Like it's 50 boys take off. They walk until one's left standing. If you stop, you get 3 warnings. So I think it's if you stop for 10 seconds and you cannot go below the speed limit is 3 miles an hour. So 3 miles an hour until last man standing. And it's filmed just like that. It's pretty good. Like I really did enjoy it. It had a little twist in it too. Stephen King. There's always going to be a twist in there somewhere. But I enjoyed it. My wife was just like, meh, when it was over. I was like, I liked it. Um,
You're a big Stephen King fan, though. Like that's the difference, right? Like you really are a Stephen King fan. The books, the movies.
yeah, this one was under his pseudonym, right? So he dropped this one under man, I can't remember off the top of my head what his pseudonym was, but when it was later revealed, because it did well, but when it was later revealed that it was his, it skyrocketed, right? So he wanted to see how well it would do, under assumed name versus his name. But it did okay. But yeah, now it's a movie, and I really did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty good. It's an interesting concept, and they leave enough blamed where you get to like you're not put into like I have to draw my own conclusion at the end, but it's more of like when is this taking place? So like it's after we lose a war, right? So alternative history, we lost some war, and the cars look like 1950s, 1960 cars, right? Like like the elongated cars with the wings on the end. So somewhere in that time frame, but very much integrated. Like nobody is being racist or anything like that to each other. Like being mean to each other, yes. Not based on like it's very diverse cast, whatnot. Like so not based upon race or anything like that. So it's like I can't really put a finger on when this is taking place. Or it could be like Cuba, where like we're no longer
Vargo.
getting
Yep.
vehicles.
Yep.
Yeah, like embargoed, and like that's all. So I have no clue to be honest with you. So that I found that part very interesting. I was like, okay, it's pretty cool. I like what he did leave out versus what he thoroughly explains. So watch that finally. There's another movie I've been trying to wait for it to come on one of the like. So that one's on Stars. I don't have Stars, so I had to give them the $6. So I paid $6 to watch it. But Magazine Dreams with Jonathan Majors. I've been waiting for that joint to drop on some streaming service, and it's still only for rent. So I'm just like, I'm gonna have to pay for it. It's just gonna be the way it is. So that'd be probably the next movie I pay for.
I thought you had seen it already. No?
No, I just been
Okay.
like it was $25 forever. I'm not giving you $25 for that.
Yeah.
Not that I thought it would be bad, but like I don't care about digital movies. I'm only gonna watch a movie usually like once unless it's like a cult classic. And I don't believe that to be that's gonna be a movie I watch one time, I think. So like if it's like even I don't even do that, but like let's say back when I was getting DVDs, right? You buy your Friday, you buy your Coming to Americas, like movies that you'll watch more than, a time or two every year, Baby Boy. Like those would be the things I would buy. But nowadays, like, nah, it's streaming somewhere. Unless a sequel comes out and then all of a sudden, oh, now I gotta pay for it again. Like that does make me mad. But in this case, I just don't think that they were able to shop it because of the issues he was having at the time.
Yeah, because
And
it
it's just
wasn't
it's just
released before he went to court.
stranded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just stranded out there. If I see it, if it's $6 or less, I will pay for it. But I'm not giving you 20 something dollars for it. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, I
That's
saw the
movie
tra
theater prices.
Yeah, I know, right? I saw the trailer and I was like, that's interesting, but it would like see the psychological part to it to where I'm like, I don't really want to see that. And I'm with you. Like I would probably only watch it once and be like, ah, that was whatever. So I'm not gonna pay a bunch of money either.
Yeah, so sooner or later I'll check that one out. And then aside from that, man, I'm just trying to get all these interviews uh produced for lack of a better term or edited. So I have another one coming out with Mark Christian. It's a really good interview. So that one I just finished last night. I gotta put it out there. But please go back and check out the last few. Like there've been some really good interviews, right? The last interview that I put up with Charles Rush III, really good. So I suggest everybody. Of course, I am biased, but I thought it was a really good interview. He talks about how he went from boxing, so from the boxing ring to being in the boardroom, right? So he runs Rush IT LLC. It's a MSP, MSSP, and they are also involved in AI. So really, really good conversation with Charles. Definitely check that one out. And then the next one is Mark Christian, and then the one after that, because it's with Elizabeth Stevens. So, and then I have another one in the can too. So I got a few. I got some interviews to work with, and I got a bunch more coming up. I think I have like 5 or 6 more scheduled to be recorded. So definitely continue to check those out. And again, I'm very thoroughly surprised, man. The Nielsen numbers came out. I didn't expect for it to jump that high. So we are at over 27,500 weekly listeners on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, as well as the TuneIn app worldwide. So very excited about that. I think I sent you numbers. I think the increase for radio listeners was single digit, which was still pretty high, but the numbers for internet listeners went up by 3 digits. It's like 143% in internet listeners. So I'm like, man, we're really we're cooking over here. So I want to definitely continue to release really good content for people who are listening. And then, of course, can't forget about the podcast listeners. We had 13,000 downloads last year and growing. So that's also amazing. And now we're on video, both Spotify and YouTube, and hopefully in the near future, Apple as well, because they're going to open that service up hopefully before the end of the year. So it'll be on video there as well. So you see our beautiful, handsome, bearded faces. On the whatever your video streaming service of choice is. So definitely continue to check us out. Again, we are on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, as well as the TuneIn app worldwide, Tuesdays, 5 p.m. And we may have another station coming up. More to be on that later, like more to talk about or discuss. And then we are on video on both YouTube and Spotify, as well as audio on pretty much everything else. You can simply Google us, and your AI agent will crawl the web and find us. We are everywhere. And then, of course, go to the website, theothersideofthefirewall.com, to pick up your copy of the guide, where I interviewed 26 different individuals who are movers, shakers, and glass celebreakers who broke into cybersecurity. Find me at ryanwilliamssenior.com, as well as at Rai Security Guy on LinkedIn. Stay safe, stay secure.